I became a Christian when I accepted the Lord at the age of 20. I had teenage years that were filled with drug and alcohol use, depression, and when I became a Christian, my life changed dramatically. My drug and alcohol addiction was lifted. I began a number of years of living a strong, fulfilling, growing Christian life. I reached a point in my adult life that, as a result of challenges in my life that drove me away from the Lord, I let my relationship with the Lord slip, and as a result, my alcohol abuse and addiction came back in full force. It got to a point where my marriage was in jeopardy, my physical health was terrible, my life was in shambles, and in alcohol rehab, I rediscovered my relationship with Jesus Christ, and my life began moving in a positive, Christ-led and filled direction.
I was raised Catholic, and I didn't become a Christian until in my 40s, where I discovered a faith in Jesus, but I didn't develop that relationship. And the struggles that Rick and I had for several years in our marriage, due in part to his alcoholism, it was really tough on me. I think my faith really grew more when I realized that Rick was sober and healthy and feeling good about himself, and everything, was going well, except in my mind I was still angry because I had lived so many years in hurt and just living with his alcoholism and the struggles that we went through. And then I came to realize that what Jesus did for me by dying on the cross and forgiving me of my sins, how could I not forgive my husband? So I believe that was the turning point in my relationship with Jesus. I grew stronger. A marriage that I thought would never survive any of this, but now that we have the Lord first, we have a new marriage, we have a new life together. We can use that to influence others and help them in some of the struggles in their relationships.
And for me, as a result of what I've been through, I've been able to be put in a position to be able to leverage my struggles, my addiction, to be able to help others and influence others. Jill and I are blessed that by putting Christ first in our marriage and loving Him most of all, we're able to love each other the best that we possibly can.
So it was March 5th, 1999, and it was in the middle of the night. I couldn't sleep and had really been wrestling with God that morning, trying to understand what my purpose was. See, I had leukemia and had been diagnosed with leukemia and was treated and was unable to have kids, but God had just shown up and my wife was pregnant. So that day, I woke up, I went to work, and in a business meeting, really encountered God through one of the men in the meeting who was really telling us to be passionate about the work that we were doing. And when I left that meeting, God was saying, I created you to be passionate. I want you to pursue your passions. That's the way I created you. Later that day, I had lunch with my dad, and when I went into the office, I realized that people were saying, your dad's a great man, your dad's doing great things. So they were doing philanthropic work that was helping others. And I realized from God that day, I heard God's voice saying, I created you to do great things. Later that day, when I was leaving the office, I ended up hearing the last message from God that day. In response to my prayer in the middle of the morning, God said, walk with me. I created you to walk with me. And so now, as an adult, I've tried to leverage that story to be able to help kids and youth, to be able to help middle schoolers or high schoolers understand the passions that God's given them to be able to leverage their lives to do great things, and most importantly, to be able to walk with God in their lives. And this has given me the greatest joy in my life, is to be able to help others with that same thing that I've experienced with God.
I was that girl at the party. I was that teenage girl at the party who always had a drink in their hand, who was in the corner doing drugs, always trying to find the next boy to go home with. I was pretty empty. I was broken. I was lost. I was hurt. And I kept doing it to myself. 19, my first semester of college, I ended up being pregnant, and I didn't know how far along I was. I didn't have a boyfriend or a husband, and there was a lot of pressure to abort my baby. At my doctor's office, my first doctor's office visit, I sat there and I knew in my heart I wanted to have my baby, but I didn't know how to do that. I've been in church. My mom had brought me to church for about a year now, and I heard about this Jesus fellow who is like some kind of Messiah, some savior. And so I sat there and I said, Jesus, if you're real, will you show up today? Will you make it so that I can have my baby and that I can keep him and raise him? And yeah, the doctor walked in the room about 10 minutes later and said, you're 5 months pregnant, Jessica. You can't abort this baby anywhere. And I knew it was Jesus. So I went home and I asked him to be my savior that day, and I've been trying to follow him ever since. He changed my life inside and out. I got baptized when I was 8 months pregnant. I was married a year later. I have 3 beautiful children, and I have a church home. God is using my testimony. He's leveraging it to share the love that I've felt. I think he let me go through a lot of these things so that I could love anybody, the homeless guy downtown, or the woman in Bible study, or high school kids that are looking for a place to go. I can love these kids because I'm no different than they are, and so I just want to share how much I am loved by loving others. So that's what I try and do. If it's with a smile or a word of encouragement or a gift or prayer or just how I walk daily, I just want to share how much he loves me.